We've identified an AIM facility that is vulnerable to attack. Though there are still security synthoids to contend with, we expect the Avengers should be able to easily prevail.
19 of
Take
my
out any
playthrough
AIM
of
forces you
Avengers on
encounter.
PS5. Hopefully you've been enjoying watching me play it so far. If you have, like, comment, subscribe. Without further ado, let's get back to it.
Head for the location.
Alright, Jim, let's get a question or two before we wrap things up. This next one was sent to cornydrivethrue@gmail.com from John in Bristol, UK. Thanks for the great podcasts and insight. Do you think that NXT has possibly had a more negative effect on WWE than it has positive? I ask because in wrestling, a debut is always a big deal. Who is this guy? What can he do? Who's he going to feud with, etc., etc. Now the audience knows pretty much everything about each debut. Then fans start winging and just whining. Whining about character changes. Guys move to the main roster. Not a fan of his at all, but take Cena for example. He was a monster heel, right? Then he debuts on WWE TV as a complete white meat babyface. It worked because people saw him. Was he a monster heel? OVW, I think he's referring to.
He was a heel, but he wasn't a monster heel.
Wait, maybe he hasn't seen OVW, John in Bristol. Let me go back to this. Debuts as a complete white meat babyface. It worked because few people saw OVW because it didn't have the reach of NXT.
Right.
So by NXT being so popular, has it created an issue for WWE in regard to actual development of talent, writing, etc.?
Well, I thought where he was going with that is, has NXT been detrimental to the WWE because their developmental program put on a better program with more exciting matches and more interesting shit, and it made the other programs, Raw and SmackDown, look bad. That's where I thought he was going. It's not NXT's fault that they don't know what to do with their talent. So NXT, the previous iteration of it, if they're going to have a third brand and a developmental brand on national TV, that was the best, pretty much, they probably could have hoped for. And then they changed everything about it. Now, it sucks pond water. But it wasn't NXT's fault that they... Obviously, one of the big attractions of wrestling in the old days was when somebody new came into your territory, you might have heard about them in the magazines, but you'd never seen them in person, and before the video era, you'd never seen them at all. You couldn't see them unless they were on your local TV or came to your town. Those talents were a blank slate. And you could bring in, of course, if it was a preliminary or an underneath guy, then, you know,
these
you
enemies
knew that
must be
because that's
defeated.
where they were slotted when they came in. But if it was a main event guy, he was a blank slate to you. All you knew was big reputation, and whatever they did with him got him over. So it was always good to see people for the first time in that environment where they could be, you know, elevated to a main event spot. Well, NXT USA took that away, that you're going to see these talents because it's on USA Network. What is never explained, what there is no reason for, what there's no simple explanation for, and no goddamn sense to, is taking a guy from NXT and bringing him to Raw or SmackDown and changing anything. Name, gimmick, you're a fucking idiot if you've done that. Not talent, the office. You're an idiot if you've done it. You just admit that you're a dumb fuck. You don't know what you're doing. And you ruined, probably, your talent. Because, yes, from OVW, which was on TV in one metropolitan area in the country and a couple of adjoining smaller areas, versus national TV, change and do whatever you want. When you're making a lateral move from USA Network on Tuesday to USA Network on Monday, or the Fox Network on Friday, and you change a guy's name, television under that name and that fucking gimmick because we thought it was good. And if you change it on the same television program, or the audience on a different program but on the same channel, then you've just told those people, besides the fact that this is fake, this guy is phony, we obviously fucked up before and it was stupid of us to do that. So, if you've got a talent that you want to use, but you think, well, I've fucked up, I've given him the wrong name or the wrong gimmick, and it ain't his fault, then fucking pay for 6 months, it's $1 billion corporation, every year, and have him go home and learn the ropes. He fucking has something, and to push back after years that he's forgotten that he was the previous guy, and now he can be somebody else. Oh shit, last week he was on Raw, but now he's on NXT. It's the same network, and the same fans watching. And we're gonna change his name and everything about it. That's fucking stupid.
Everyone who watched NXT and got excited about Karrion Kross and then saw him on the main roster. Keith Lee, same thing.
Yes. And I'm not changing someone that's already been on television, especially if you're changing him for the worse,
Nice work, Avengers.
is bad. But
This won't be the
changing
last
them
time
for
we
the
mount an
better
assault on AIM's forces,
is not
but
good
this
either
should
because you just
significantly
changed
weaken their
him
capabilities.
and told people this is all phony. He's not really that guy. He's somebody else. Or we'll tell him to be, and he'll listen to us, because he does what we tell him. None of these things is good for wrestlers. You want people to believe that the person that you're presenting on television is that person. And when they go along with their name being changed and their the stuff they wear being changed, the way they're presented, then they're telling the fans, yeah, I'm as phony as a football bat anyway. So it's stupid. If you put a fucking guy on
Avengers,
television,
we've discovered the location of a
and it's not the right
high-security
name
AIM
or the
server
right gimmick,
facility.
it's your fucking
If
fault.
you gain control
Don't
of the
take it
logging
out on the
stations,
talent,
I should be
and
able to
don't
hack into
fucking
their systems
fuck
and
him
steal...
up just because you didn't know what you were doing. And the idea of changing a guy's name or gimmick after he's been on television, seen
If
by
you can
the
gain
same
control
audience
of
that
AIM's
you're
network
trying
temporarily,
to
I can
hoist
infiltrate
him
their
off
security
on
system.
again, and you change it, you're a fucking moron. Unforgivable. Otherwise, that I have no
Terminal,
opinion.
so I can get you inside the lab.
Exclusive thoughts on that.
Your defeat was inevitable. You're not alone.
Nice work! AIM's network is equipped with a multi-point authentication system. I need access to multiple terminals.
What
The more
happened
the
after
better.
December 10th, 1997? How did I suddenly worm the NWA
AIM will attempt to
invasion
initiate a shutdown protocol if
onto
they
the
gain
television
access to the
screens
terminal.
of the WWF? I remember that I was home in my house I actually lived in Huntington, Connecticut. It was a suburban area up there. I was at my house in
Shutdown protocol is
Connecticut,
progressing.
and the phone rings, and I know it was a Sunday because the reason why I was not on the road headed toward a Raw taping on Monday was because the Raw that Monday was in Long Island at Nassau Coliseum. It was an hour drive away. I also know by looking at the books that the only WWF event on that Sunday was in Hamilton, Ontario. It was an afternoon show, it was a house show, and Vince wasn't going to be there. The writing finally pulls the trigger on it, he's been mulling over, or that somebody has pitched him, and he does it at the last minute. And basically the call was, Jim, you know all the guys in the NWA. Yeah, I don't mean. Let me try this again. Not all the guys in the NWA, but the NWA Board of Directors. Howard Brody was the president at the time. Dennis Corluzzo was the guy who was really the mover and shaker behind most of the shows that were being run at the point, the NWA tournaments and everything. But he asked if Jeff Jarrett, who was returning or just returned or was about to return, could be in some way affiliated with the NWA. visitation privileges at the castle, and I've made a promise to him. Privileges at the castle, and I've made a promise to him. I said if I ever, and this is a conditional promise. Anything that begins with if, it's a conditional promise. If I ever again do a live personal appearance in public, advertising in front of people, it will be on one of his shows.
Well, hold on, you can't promise that.
Why not?
We need to make sure Bobby can put up bonds. We didn't have enough money to secure a major thing like a Jim Cornette appearance. You can't give that away.
I'm gonna. I didn't say anything about giving it away. There might be some money changing hands, but I don't care about that because as the long-time listeners will recall, when last we left our castaways, I sound like the Lost in Space voiceover guy. I need one more show. Because if I have one more show and I accomplish my 40th anniversary, if it's in 2022, I get my 40th anniversary. That would be even 1982 to 2022 as a professional in the wrestling industry. And at the same time, I would get my 5th decade, 80s, 90s, zeros, teens, and 20s. And at the same time, if you consider when I made money from professional wrestling for the first time versus when I became a performer, then I would be getting my 6th decade, because you can add the 70s. One show, and it can encompass all of that, and then I can be done with everything. Because I got the OCD for those even numbers and those milestones. I started to say landmine. That's not it might be, but it's a milestone.
When you said one more show ringside?
Well, no, just doing something on a wrestling show. I retired from management, but to do something on I consider it something on a show.
Why don't you go back to where you began and start taking photos of ringside again? We could sell for like $15 a pop to what is it? What's that magazine in England? $15 a pop. That's big money.
Well, what's that magazine in England is the technical title. They call it WTMIE for short. But no, because see, then here's the thing: my knees. I can't kneel down at ringside anymore. That would be, and I can't get up if I am kneeled down. So I can't do that. That's why I quit managing, because I can't. It's like, okay, we're gonna see the Rolling Stones, but Mick can't sing anymore.
I
shake
can
the tambourine.
security system.
If I
Head
can't,
for the terminal so I can get you inside the lab.
about this. As a matter of fact, sometime last year in a bored moment, I can't imagine when that was, that I was actually bored.
Games Network is
But I
equipped
started
with a
thinking about all the
multi-authentication
things that I
system.
used to do
I
working
need access
ringside
to
as a
multiple
manager.
terminals.
Not just
The more the
bumps,
better.
but running around, jumping up on the apron of the ring, running down to distract the referee, or, working the people or whatever. And I thought, okay, let me examine this piece by piece and determine now the probability that I can do any of this shit without hurting myself. Even just at the start of the match, jumping down from the apron to the floor. And I came up with a 20 to 30% probability that I could hurt something or re-aggravate something that I've previously hurt, including my bad shoulder, my bad neck. You remember my back? I've been over a few months ago, stick a flag in the yard and couldn't crawled around on my hands and knees in the house for 2 weeks, so I determined that all of those things are not calculated risks anymore. They're just probabilities that I'll herniate myself, throw my shoulder out, and my knee will go out, or whatever, and that's why I'm not much less taking bumps.
Security should give me.
Then people would think I was stealing from Ron Wright. A poor old crippled up old ex-wrestler just trying to make a living, and all those mean wrestlers that crippled him up like that. People would think I was stealing from him.
All
Anyway, so there's going to be no, I'm not doing it for the money. I'm just doing it for the round number and the landmine, or the mine stone, the flower. And I don't care about the money, but I'm not sure that I'm going to be doing it because there's still the matter of I would have to get on an interstate highway somewhere to do that, no matter where it was, and I successfully stayed off all interstate highways except when I picked Stacy up from the airport and when I taken her when she went to California for her mom's surgery. That's the only time I've been on the interstate in since the last time he went to California. Maybe they'll come and have the show in my backyard.
I think that would work out pretty well. You know, you're the first to leave. But let me ask you this. If you're going to do something on a wrestling show, it's not in the security system, would you want to do something with guys that you have worked with in the past to celebrate the past in that way, I guess, and kind of close the book on that chapter of your life? Or would you rather be doing something with someone who's contemporary to endorse, to kind of say that, you know, here's my way of endorsing the future of wrestling?
Well, you know what? When you started asking that question, I was going to say, well, on the part about working with guys who I have history with and were my contemporaries, the problem is if there ain't that many left anymore. If I go to where most of those are, I wouldn't be in fit condition to do anything myself to begin with. But then when you uttered the second part of the question, and you said guys that you endorse today, well, fuck. There may be less of them than there still is living, breathing examples of 80s wrestling. So I don't know.
Work,
That's
Avengers.
a good question.
I was able to obtain several terabytes of vital AIM intel.
It just happened.
It will
Let me
take me
ask
some
you
time
this,
to
who's
analyze,
the first
but it
person you
should
hit with
prove
the
a
tennis
boon
racket?
for the Resistance.
Magnum TA.
Who should be the last person you hit with the tennis racket?
Shit stain.
No, but it has to be someone you'll work with. It can't be someone you actually want to
can't be a shoot?
No. No, people
What about
actually
well,
want to
actually, as Magnum will tell you, my first one on him was a shoot too. I actually left a scar on him from that one.
How did you hit him? Did you hit him across?
No, here's the thing. I mean, this has been lost to time, I guess, because I hadn't thought about it till you just brought it up, but I'm carrying a tennis racket, but I didn't know how to work with it at first. As far as in what manner I should strike people with it, right? Because, and I'm exposing my own business now, but what the fuck? Here are the mechanics of the tennis racket shot. Here you go. Folks, this is first time, all this information's been in the same place at the same time. So, I get the idea from the movie that I saw after our first Mid-South television. I come back to Nashville, we go see movie. Happens to be one of those teen movies, the early 80s. The rich kid in the crowd is carrying the badminton racket. Gives me the idea. So I get a tennis racket. Because a badminton racket's not that formidable, right? And the next time we go to the next Mid-South TV, which was the second one we did, which would have been mid-December of 1983, I showed it to Watts. I said, hey, I mean, he understood it immediately. All I'd say was, hey, manager gimmick. They've done canes, they've done umbrellas or whatever. Tennis racket. I'm a rich kid. Yeah, boom, done.
You knew you needed a weapon at ringside.
Well, and that's the thing is I knew because the boys had told me, not just Bobby and Dennis, but the guys working the Louisiana Territory, my first TV in, you know, we've talked about, they've joked, oh, they're going to kill you. And that's why I was thinking about what can I carry, because several of the guys had brought up, yeah, carry something, have something. So anyway, I started using that there, but then I realized, well, okay, how am I going to do blah, blah, blah. So at first, the way that you would hurt someone the most with the racket is to turn it sideways and hit him over the head with the frame, which became known as the Mark shot, a.k.a. the Buzz Sawyer shot, right? And don't you hit me like a fucking Mark. Don't you hit me like a fucking Mark. So, but that would be the way that you would, you know, damage somebody is turn him, but that's also very hard to work believably. And then there's the gut shot, and, you know, or the throat shot, right? Which I didn't try for a while till I got the hang of things. But anyway, so it was a work in progress, and a lot of first couple of times that we did a finish with it, the baby face would be rolling one of the Midnight up, and the Midnight would drop down flat, and the baby face's head would come through the ropes, right, on the O'Connor roll-up. If the heel drops flat, the baby face falls forward through the ropes over the second rope, and I would whack the guy with the edge of it, but where the shaped part went around his neck, right? So it wasn't going to bust anything open. And that was all right. But then I got Magnum. We're getting heat on him, right? He's down. It's after the match. Two's been thrown out of the ring. Bell's ringing. The people are screaming. And I'm going to take the stem of the racket, the handle, the stalk of it. And I've got it in my left hand, where I've got my left hand even with the bottom of it. And I jump up in the air and drop to my knees, and I'm going to bring it down somewhere in the vicinity of his chest. You can see what I'm doing now. Straight down, right, like I've stuck him right down in the throat with the thing. But he's also green, and he won't admit this to this day, the old "you moved." But as the boys were kicking him and everything, he sat straight up, and I didn't know it was coming. And when he sat up, I was coming down, and I brought the end of that thing right down on the end of his chin, boom, and busted his chin open. His chin starts bleeding. He's like, shit. Okay, well, that looked good. But anyway, so he's reminded me about that a number of times. But then, God, finally, I'm trying to think who the first person... I hit somebody over the back, but I tried to work it. And then I realized, well, wait a minute. I don't need to work that because it's flat. It's like a chop. And then you also have to, sometimes I had to modify. If I had one of the fancy racket covers with a fancy outfit for a pay-per-view or whatever, the problem is the fancy racket covers weren't made out of that vinyl like the real ones were, that makes the chopping sound on a sweaty back. So,
because it always made a great sound when you did it. Yeah.
But so basically just playing with it for the first month or so that we were down there, I think, and see, that's the thing, I wouldn't use it in every match because Watts did not want even the manager to interfere in every match or the gimmick to be used in every match, because then it didn't get as much heat. But then, of course, later on, as we evolved, people kind of, even when they didn't like us, they still expected to see one of those shots. It got over some, you know, to the point where if they didn't see me use it, they were kind of like, fuck. More likely they wanted Ricky or Robert to shove it up my ass, but whatever. But anyway, so we played with it, and the first month or two that we were there in Midland,
was it just Tulsa and a couple other towns that you had a horseshoe or whatever it was in the racket, or was it every house show town?
No, it wasn't everyone, because at first, the first time that I had loaded it, we got in some kind of fucking hayrube in Tulsa, I think the first time. And I just see, you know what, this was like, we'd only been there 6 weeks. And I remember that what I did was I went and the ideas that I had, I got the dog chain, a dog choker chain, and duct taped that in without the cover on it around the edge of the racket. So it added weight, but it also added hardness to the edge of the racket, and slipped the cover on over it. And then also this lasted once. I actually got tin snips and cut, I guess that's what they're called, the things that cut to tin and aluminum or whatever, and cut the cookie sheets to shape the racket. So I had an actual metal plate on each side of the racket with the chain around the edge, and duct tape that. And you could bend a stop sign in half with a good swing on that thing, right? It was fucking stiff. That was for the rough towns for protection, but one night in Baton Rouge, this, like I said, this was real early on, and this is what made Bobby quit. Bobby used to say, here, I'll go in front, give me the racket. When we'd come back from the ring, you get behind me and Dennis is going to bring up the rear, right? So that way Bobby, the guy in front, has the weapon in his hand. Well, that evolved quickly because besides the fact that they realized, you know, they're taking more shots at me, so I need the fucking club, but also this guy came and fucking socked Bobby, and he turned around and the guy ran off into the crowd as we're coming back in a Centroplex, and Buddy Landell, who was riding with us at that time, used to watch our matches so that if we had any trouble, he'd come out and help. He sees the guy hit Bobby and runs and fucking... it was like he was running across a football field full of people that he broken field tackled this fucking guy. And as he brought him up, he had his arms kind of like in a surfboard, and the guy was on his knees. And Dennis came right afterwards and football kicked the guy up under the jaw. And Bobby had the racket and hit him over the top of the head with it, with the cookie sheet and the chain duct taped around it under the cover, and bent the entire it broke the frame because that was a wooden one at that time, and that's when I switched to the metal ones later on. It cracked the frame, but it bent the cookie sheet. It looked like a fucking kitchen pot on top of the guy's head, right? It was in the shape of a head. And Bobby gave me the racket back. He said, I'm going to kill somebody. I don't want it anymore.
Dennis wouldn't have mind.
And well, yeah, did that's what he agreed, and I should probably have it. So that's what happened there.
Whenever you bought a tennis racket, how often, because you had to go through a lot of them, how often did whoever it was in the sporting goods store try to talk to you about tennis? Did that happen?
Yeah, a couple of times, especially like at Charlotte at the mall. Oh, what? I'm just playing around. I just want to, because they'll try to upsell you, right? Well, that's the cheapest one. Yeah, I know.
10 of them.
Yeah,
Did you ever buy them in bulk?
No, well, because rackets. Once I had 4 or 5, if they bent, like if I hit Animal 3 or 4 nights in a row, it would be bent badly. But I just get either Hawk or Animal, here, bend this back for me. Look at what you've done. And they just, you know, and then I kept I still have the one that I used on TV that fit all the decorative covers that you've seen, all the, you know, the TBS clips and the Santa Claus tennis racket cover and all that stuff. That was the same racket because it was a wood frame. I'd gotten it early on. Had my first couple of fancy racket covers made for it, and I just, as a good luck charm, I would use that one for those fancy covers, but when I didn't have to really hit somebody or knock them out, usually, whatever. But no, and sometimes I'd send my wife to buy one or whatever, because then, even though the mall in Charlotte was at the ritzy part of town, you know, I couldn't just walk around freely without getting recognized. I was Cornette buying the cheapest racket in fucking store, so.
A mob of girls attacked a guy at Dick's Sporting Goods today for selling tennis rackets to Jim Cornette. They were chanting rock and roll, rock and roll.
Rock and roll, rock and roll.
All right,
hey,
so...
did
Well,
I tell you about this? Well, go ahead. Are we done on the racket?
No, well, I was just going to say, you didn't answer. Who do you want to be the last person you hit with the racket?
Oh, but it can't be a shoot.
No, it has to be someone, because you said you want to work a show. It has to be in that context.
Whatever. Ricky Morton's son is wrestling now. I did once hit Paul Morton in an angle when we came back and worked Memphis with the Fabs. So that could be something, because even though I'm not mad at the young man, I could say that I've actually whacked 3 generations of the same family. That might be a record that would... When's the last time in professional wrestling that 3 generations of the same family have been hit over the head with a tennis racket?
I can't say that's ever happened before.
Well, there you go. I could go out once again with another record. Call Guinness.
But what about like going out with nuclear heat? Like that's the last time people see you do something and it's just crazy heat.
Well,
hit a cat.
No, well, depends on what the cat was doing. You know, there's some cats have a fucking obnoxious personality.
They're kind of condescending. Yeah, I know.
They can be condescending, but no, the only, I mean, at this point, if anybody sees me live in person anywhere but an AEW show, they're just happy that I'm there and I'm still around. So I can't really get nuclear heat unless I was to go and make a tennis racket popsicle out of old Kenny Olivier, but that probably is highly unlikely. Not the fact that I wouldn't want to make the popsicle out of him, or probably could, but that it would have to occur on a sanctioned program of theirs. So I don't know where else I'd get nuclear heat. Besides maybe at just the local post office.
But when you throw someone like Ricky Morton's son out there into the mix, you're basically saying you would like it to be a younger person or someone contemporary who's of the modern day, as opposed to it being Ricky Morton, let's say.
Well, no, I just thought it would be funny to fuck with his whole family. I'd be happy hitting Ricky.
Why don't you do like the Inoki thing where you stand in the middle of the ring and you just have a line of people come in and you just slug everyone with the racket?
Everybody walks in and turn your back. Pow! Nick, turn your back. Pow! Nick, turn your back. Pow!
Sponsored by Stephen P. New. We can make this work.
Yes.
This one was sent to cornydrivethrough@gmail.com from Gabe in New York. This is another popular topic, Jim. I've been a long-time listener of the podcast, and you both always do a fantastic job. I wanted to know Jim's thoughts on WWE seemingly shelving the Vladimir the Superfan documentary, as well as if he had any stories on Vladimir and other superfans in wrestling history.
Well, we mentioned this on a show here recently, talking about the documentaries, and the Vladimir one was so well thought of. They didn't release it, but they aired it at a film festival, and everybody went crazy over it. And I guess Mike Johnson had written a piece on it here on PW Insider not long ago. Maybe Vladimir, I don't want to speak out of school, but I think he's having some health issues or a rough patch or whatever, and it'd be really meaningful to him to see the thing released.
The arc reactor's nearby. Jarvis, are you picking up anything?
Since they went to all the trouble and spent the money and it's done, why not? I have no idea. I've seen Vladimir going back, is it 30 years now or more, not only at wrestling events when I was with the WWF, but also conventions up in the Northeast and Fan Fest, and he's one of the most dedicated guys you could ever run into, and he's always happy and always smiling, etc. I've not spent an inordinate amount of time with him, but just to the effort and the expense and the commitment that he has put into for I don't know how many years, going back 30 years or more, to go to all those shows, to be a presence there, to experience everything. He's on every highlight video that's ever been made because he's probably been in the building more often than Vince has at this point. So I think it would be great if they showed everybody what they did after yanking the guy's chain and milking everybody. It'd be nice to finally see it. I have no idea why they couldn't figure out some way. It makes their company look good. So I have no idea what they're doing.
Catch and kill.
Yeah, but in this case they raised it. So they raised it and then caught it in a barrel. It wasn't hard to catch it when they raised it, and then they killed it. You're only supposed to catch and kill shit that's out there in the wild that you don't want anybody else to have.
We'll see what happens to Vladimir's documentary. Any thoughts on other WWE
I'm not trying to intimate that they should go hunt Vladimir down like a remake of The Most Dangerous Game because he's out there in the wild. I'm not saying that. Now let's clarify that. As to anything, they do a good job on the documentaries. That's one of their, fucking strong points. And as we just have mentioned, the Ruthless Aggression series and blah, blah, blah. Sometimes they rewrite history when they have to, but on a lot of stuff that flies under the radar that Kevin Dunn or Vince ain't ever going to see or they don't care about or whatever, they do it. Plus, you get to see all the footage and comments with so many of the guys. So, like I said, that's one of the things they do best, and now we don't get to see that. I don't know. All right, what we're going to do now is go into some discussion on this past week's AEW program. We're going to do that now so that we save our main event for something possibly going to be a little more positive, more fun to talk about. But again, with this program, you go from the outhouse to the penthouse and back again to where you get whiplash. I feel like I'm watching a tennis match. Rotten, great. Rotten, great. Rotten, great. I'm back and forth. My neck hasn't had this kind of work in years. But we're going to talk about this one now. It was Wednesday, December the 1st, a day that will live in infamy. And that's at the end of the program, what everybody's talking about. But from the start, and we want to say best wishes to Jim Ross also again. He tweeted out that he's had, I guess, 3 or 4 treatments now, but he was off this program. He's going to be off through the month of December and back at the end of the month. All things going well.
And you know what? I think listening to the show missed him.
But yeah, because now the first words we got to hear are from Sockface. But besides that, remember we said last week, well, with Jim Ross off, at least a 2-man booth, maybe we could actually hear if any of these guys could do something. But so what they did on this program was they put a different wrestler on the color position, rotating for every match, and instead at one point Team Taz, everybody was out there. They didn't all talk, but we still, I guess they've got to have a minimum of 3 announcers on their program. Is that just a rule that they've come up with? That, and 4 in the case of Rampage. That's Rampage. They have 1 announcer for every 3 viewers these days.
On this show, we got giant ring entrances for commentators. Yeah. We had 2 different guys get a giant entrance. One of them barely said any words on commentary. It was ridiculous.
And poor old Adam Cole.
Poor old Adam Cole.
He actually did it. Well, I say poor old Adam Cole because it used to be, wow, Adam Cole, and now it's poor old Adam Cole. He did his whole entrance and then walked back to the desk. But anyway, the opening match was Bryan Danielson, again, one of their major stars that they just signed, against Alan Angels. And I know they're doing the story that he's going to kick the shit out of every Fourth Order member until he gets to Adam Page, because they're buddies. So yes, there's a story behind it, but 2 things. Number 1, this kicks off a national TV show. Bryan Danielson is a superstar. Bryan Danielson is not goddamn El Santo at the height of his popularity. Ricky knows that. What they've done, and we talked about it with Punk, is, and there's nothing wrong with giving guys wins. We've been talking for 2 years about how they bring people in and they never beat anybody. Those were guys that weren't over to begin with. Now they bring people in that are already massively over because they're already superstars, and they start giving them wins like they need them. what they're doing is putting these guys on TV trying to get ratings, but then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that if you see CM Punk every week, and you know you're going to see CM Punk every week, or Bryan Danielson, or whatever, then that doesn't have any significant impact on the ratings unless it is a main event match, or a sought-after match, or a match that they're thirsting to see specifically. Not just because it's part of an angle for somebody else's match they're going to have later. So, in this case, there was obviously nothing wrong with the matches, but that's why the ratings are, and you've got the people who like AEW, and that like may not be strong enough term, who are going to pull out every excuse in the book and every this and that and the other thing. And then you've got the people who hate AEW, no matter whether what they do is good or bad, and they're going to say, well, look at even Punk and Danielson. Don't move the needle on the ratings. Well, it's not really Punk and Danielson's fault. They did when they first showed up. But now, I mean, Brian, I love Emo's Pizza. But I remember I told you that here just a few months ago, one of the Cult of Cornette members kindly and charitably sent me a box of 4 frozen Emo's Pizzas so that I could eat them here at the castle, because I don't get to St. Louis anymore, so I never get an Emo's Pizza. And I love Emo's Pizza. Of course, frozen on ice and shipped, they're not like straight out of the oven in the restaurant, but still it's Emo's Pizza. You got the Provel cheese. But the point I'm making is, I got 4 of those pizzas in that box. And on the 4th, actually the 3rd day, I ate 2 one day, and Stace wanted a bit. But on the 3rd day, I say, you know, even if I had another Emo's Pizza, I probably wouldn't eat it tomorrow, because I've had enough Emo's Pizza right now. So I went from, God damn, I'd crawl across broken glass with Shiite Muslims dogging my footsteps to get an Emo's Pizza, to, well, now I've had 4 in 3 days, and tomorrow I'll just have a burger. Same thing. Anyway, having said that, now that we'll get what are the ratings? What were the ratings? Because, as I said, people have been making a big deal out of whichever their stance on the thing is, but the ratings have been going down. Rampage was under, I believe, 500,000. Of course, that was the Friday after Thanksgiving. That's holiday weekend. It's a rough time. Did you see that Uncle Dave tweeted? I want to get this right. He tweeted that the AEW did a better than average number in Canada, and gave the statistics, but Canada was up, and Lance Storm, of all people, who you don't think when you think of Lance Storm, he's going to be the first one to crack a funny joke, right? But Lance Storm said in response to Dave's tweet about, well, the ratings were up for AEW in Canada, he said that's because in the holiday time, us Canadians like to sit around the fire.
Because the show had a giant fire on it, of course.
Dave didn't get it. Dave wrote back and said, well, the statistics showed otherwise. Lance was supposedly saying that people would rather sit around the fire than watch AEW in Canada, and Dave is defending, well, no, the statistics showed otherwise, and this and that and the other thing. And then Lance said, Dave, it was a joke.
Oh my God, I didn't see that. That's great.
He was firing up at Lance Storm for fucking making a joke in a funny manner about the show actually doing a better number, but Dave didn't get it, because unfortunately his sense of humor has went the way of the rest of his mind. But anyway, so Danielson against Allen Angels opened this thing up. And I mentioned the specialness, but is gone as far as, wow, we only get to see him every once in a while, but still Bryan Danielson is putting in tremendous performances. This personality he's got, this smiling, smarmy, smart-ass heel that is, is just kind of a a little bit of a left turn for his personality and not a 180. I did notice that. Did you notice Alan Angel's head is 2 sizes too big for his body? I can't believe that's true. Alan Angel's tell me that head would belong to somebody that's 6 feet 3. so that we don't have to worry about that.
No, don't worry about that at all.
Don't worry about it
Skylight
at
frame
all?
is reputable, and
Yes.
it's a wonderful product that I personally endorse. I have a few of them here in the house.
You can preload it with your favorite photos and then give it to somebody and say, here, it's all done. Just look at the people I want you to look at. Or as we said, you can give them the frame and then people can send pictures, whatever.
Yeah, that's the more reasonable way that I think most people will do it.
Well, it's reasonable. And as a matter of fact, someone wrote in and gave an interesting anecdote, as they say, for anecdote. This actually, they made their mother cry hysterically. She cried and screamed and moaned and bawled because she got one of these frames. It was a good cry. Oh, tears of joy is what it was. I was assuming she was just crying. But anyway, if you want to make your mother cry, give her a Skylight frame.
She will cry with tears of joy and happiness.
Yes,
When she
happiness.
looks at the entire family on a constant display on the beautiful Skylight frame.
Giddiness even, a constant display. You won't be able to get away from any of your family members. They'll be staring you in the face in every
That's not
room.
what I meant. That's
Folks, it's simple. Even old people and people like me can set it up. The reviews are excellent. And now, as a special offer, you can get $10 off your purchase of a Skylight frame when you go to skylightframe.com and enter the code DRIVE, D-R-I-V-E, $10 off your purchase of a Skylight frame at Skylight. That's SKYLIGHTFRAME.com. Promo code DRIVE to get $10 off. And then you can start sending just buy one for a person down the street and just put it on their front porch. And when they take it to their house, start sending them all kinds of pictures of strange people. They won't know what's happening. When these pictures start popping up, send a picture of my Aunt Blemish, or send a picture of Hotchkiss Featherbottom's aunt and uncle, Fanny and Felcher Featherbottom. You can send a picture of anybody to anybody. And I know one of you guys can get creative with that. SkylightFrame.com, promo code DRIVE.
That's right. Let's drive away from this wonderful product that you should all check out. Maybe omit half of what you just heard. But Jim, let's get back to Dynamite.
Dynamite!
Dynamite!
Dynamite! Well, Brian, next on the program in the Parade of Champions was the other match that I referred to momentarily, Lee Moriarty, the arch nemesis of Sherlock Holmes and his faithful companion, Dr. Watson, grappled with CM Punk. Brian, you want to do it with me?
Nope. I don't want you to do it, actually.
Look on my plate, what do you see? The cult of meat with extra cheese. I want a burger, American cheese, pickles, onions, if you please, 'cause I'm the cult of meat with extra cheese. Like it good and greasy, fresh out the pan. I'm the cult of meat with extra cheese, the cult of meat with extra cheese, the cult of meat with extra cheese. Fried or broiled, the cow must die. The meat is done, the toppings fly. You won't have to ask me if I want some extra cheese. Now with tomato and bacon too, not a drop of mustard there, you fool, 'cause I'm the cult of meat with extra cheese. On the bun, the mayo there, I'll eat it in my underwear.
Oh, come on.
Add a fried egg, that'll make it fine. You can tell that burger's mine. I need that burger, hand it to me, 'cause that's the one with meat and extra cheese. It's the one with meat and extra cheese.
I always wonder what you do with your spare time, and now I have a better idea. I think the best line is the cow must die.
Cow must die. Broiled or fried? All right, anyway, so what we had here what we had here was a babyface match. And they even did a little fucking clip, a package, etc. to show that Lee Moriarty is just a babyface, just a nice guy. You don't want to see anything bad happen to him, so this isn't going to be as fun, I wrote at the top, as most Punk matches, because he's so brilliant when he has a heel. If he's working with an underneath guy and it's a heel, then he's got stooges at ringside, or they can cheat or whatever. Before the match starts, MJF's music plays. He does come out and goes to the desk for color, and that was, again, he's effortless on color. He has a vocabulary, imagine that, and a great delivery. But the longer I watched the match, the string is broken.
Okay.
Have to be honest. They started with mat wrestling, the counters, the reversals, the arm drags. It was even, if not advantage, Moriarty, so that MJF can knock Punk. Well, look at him. He can't even, fucking handle Moriarty. How's he going to handle me, etc. And that was fine, especially early in the match. And then Punk got a little more aggressive and took over clearly going into the break. But when they came back from the break, Moriarty's the one that had just hit a false finish. And then Punk missed a knee to the buckle, and he was getting the shit kicked out of him. And I had, at that point, I'm saying I'm not enjoying Moriarty getting this much telling the story so that, MJF can mock him a little bit, and then Punk comes back and cleans things up when he gets the opening. This was... Moriarty gets a crossface on him, and Punk has to get a rope break. And Punk gives Moriarty a Frankensteiner off the top rope. Moriarty rolls through for a sunset flip.
Well, Jim, transitioning far away from that, are you ready for more questions?
No.
Let's have fun. Are you ready to have fun?
No.
What do you mean, no? Come on.
Well, what? See, you asked me a question. Expecting, and then you shouldn't ask me the question. Don't ask the question if you don't want the answer.
I'm trying to lift you with our fun spirit here at This Week on the Show.
Lift me? Well, don't get a hernia there, cowboy. Just drag me along by the heel.
All right, well, let's see what the heel thinks of this next question. This is actually one that many people have sent in. I don't know if we have a good article, because several people sent in some bullshit website that said nothing. But the story is real and it's out there. Jim, your thoughts on WWE in 2022? They're going to cease production on DVDs and Blu-rays in the United States.
Well, and Canada. I can believe that because they figure, all right, a lot of those guys, the last bit of royalties they get is off DVD sales. So let's figure out a way to fuck them. The joke writes itself. Did anybody want to see the show the first time, much less see the DVD release when it comes out over the past few years? But I get, DVD sales are not what they once were, obviously, because now, not only are the shows something that you want to keep on your shelf in a position of honor and go back and watch regularly, like the idea of DVDs or any kind of home video was to begin with. You can just fucking watch it on YouTube or on the cock or on whatever. It'll be altered, or you might not be able to find it, or you might not have all the entire show or the compilation of matches or whatever was on the DVD that you would want. But they don't care about that. They got bigger fish to fry there last, so I saw then someone put out that they may do some big show releases or whatever going forward, but it's looking like it's heading that way.
Yeah, if they get a deal with a major chain like Walmart or Target or Best Buy where they say we'll carry it exclusively, then they'll make something up. But otherwise, this is it, probably.
Yeah. And, in all honesty, like I said, the biggest thing is nothing that they've done over the last few years is worth having on your shelf to go back and revisit over and over. And I was never a fan of Big Show DVDs as much as compilations like the multi-disc sets they would do on major stars, whether it was Undertaker or they did a heck of a set on Lawler, or the individual stars. I liked those, and that was cool to have 6 hours of one guy's greatest, or the greatest that they can compile that's in their library. That was nice, but we don't get nice things anymore.
The royalty issue now becomes even bigger. Not that anyone was getting rich off the royalties of DVDs and Blu-rays currently.
Hey, I'll have you know that every 3 months, I was still getting a check for like $86.14 that now will go away. What is a boy to do?
Now you get no royalties.
Now I'm getting nothing.
How does that work?
Nada, zip, zero, zilch, goose egg.
All right, well, we'll talk Stephen P. New later in the show. But...
Well, no, I'll be just fine. However, that's the thing that they were going to, when the network launched, was that 2014? I think we were in New Orleans at WrestleMania, right? I wasn't at WrestleMania. I was in New Orleans WrestleMania weekend for the Mid-South Wrestling reunion, but that was 8 years ago almost. The network launched, and they had announced they were going to have a meeting with the talent on how that royalties would be handled going forward as pertained to the network. You remember that?
I wasn't there, but I remember hearing about it.
You remember that it was a thing that was scheduled to take place.
Correct, yes.
And then it was canceled and was going to be rescheduled. And I guess April will be 8 years, and they ain't figured out a way to work that son of a bitch on the schedule yet. They don't get royalties for the network. They get all the money. First they got the money from the subscribers of the network, then they got the money from the cock. But it's not the getting of the money, it's the distributing of the money, and that's what they have yet to do for anybody off of the network. So all that stuff that you see, nobody's getting paid on that. They get the video game. What is there now to get royalties on? Besides, they got video game royalties. Right? There's T-shirts and paraphernalia that is sold with your name on it, but there's going to be no video royalties, right? If they don't do DVDs, if they don't sell things, if it's all on the cock, or if it's all streaming.
Right, no, if it's anything like an action figure or a T-shirt, anything that uses your image in that way, the company's nice enough to share some of that money with you. But if it's something that actually shows your visual performance,
if it's actually you performing,
you're entitled to nothing.
Dude, like, Bob Denver on Gilligan's Island. Thank you, Stephen P. New, for that outstanding book.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen P. New. Let me say this publicly. He just sent me a whole bunch of books. I was like, what are all these books? They're all from West Virginia. Now I get it.
And kettle corn. We got kettle corn here also.
What? He didn't send me kettle corn. What?
Well, he likes me better. Anyway, Bob Denver got like residuals for two cycles of reruns on Gilligan's Island, and then nothing ever again. All the people on it. That's the way they were doing the actors in Hollywood in the 50s and 60s, and that's all been fixed up. But since wrestling is neither fish nor fowl, sometimes it's foul, and sometimes it's fishy. But it doesn't fit in any compartment, so the guys can't or not offer the ability to join the Screen Actors Guild, but they have no union of their own. And so all this stuff can just be shown in perpetuity, and what are you gonna do about it, fella? Fella? That's the legal defense. What are you gonna do about it, fella, from the WWE?
Yeah, no, they have not. I don't think have they fought it yet? I mean, they've had the case thrown out on, the person signed away their rights to fight this, or the time limit ran out, or the lawyer's a fucking nutbag, whatever their arguments have been about several of the recent things. Have they ever actually had to defend in court not paying any royalties to wrestlers who are appearing on a network that they're charging a subscription fee for? which
No.
they were before Peacock.
No, they have not, is the brief answer to that question.
All right, well, that's a wonderful thing for the next company to know that they're buying when they buy WWE. They're buying.
Yeah, hey, that's the thing. You can buy this company and you don't have to pay piss to any of these wrestlers that have broken their backs and their heads and their whatever. You can just show this shit until the end of time. And on this January morning, should we look back when things were still the way they should be?
That sounds promising.
And January 1988, because I thought 30 years ago, let's go back and see what was going on, at least in my world of wrestling. But as we know, the territories were starting to falter. A lot of them were going by the wayside. I think, was it 89 was the year Continental went away.
Yes.
But 88, it was starting to feel that, and even Crockett's business was starting to go down. With the end of 87, business has started to slack off, and it wasn't until the Great American Bash Tour of 88 that things came back, and that's when David and Francis and Jackie tried to get Jim Crockett not to sell because business had come back, but by then it was too late. But that late 87 through mid 88 period, where the TV revenue from the syndication network, commercial revenue didn't come in as it was supposed to. Vince had sabotaged Crockett and blocked him off pay-per-view. He had to get Turner Broadcasting involved to get the Great American Bash 88 on pay-per-view that year. So it was kind of a down period, but when you look back on it today, it's still, it's like, oh my God, if things could only be that good again. But I looked back in January 1988, the Midnight Express and I made $7,000 a piece that month, which was probably the worst month that we had had for Jim Crockett Promotions since we'd come in 85. And of course, that's equivalent to, I think it's $14,700 and something or whatever today, but still from what we were used to. And of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we had 7 days off that month because it was freak winter weather in the Carolinas and we were snowed out a couple of days. So 7 days off in a month was unheard of at that point in time. But the money was not too good, but there were some interesting things that happened. Would you like to, I haven't even opened the book any further yet. I wanted to re-experience this with you. Would you like to take a look at it?
Let's take a look at it. I'm thinking of a few January 88 items you may touch on.
Well, January 1st was the Atlanta Omni, New Year's Day as always. And the main event was a cage match for a wild card spot for the Bunkhouse Stampede Finals. Because you remember every year during December for a few years there, Dusty ran the Bunkhouse Stampedes, and whoever won the most of them would be the Bunkhouse Stampede champion. And there was always some doubt. Like in '87, it was Dusty and Big Bubba Rogers had tied, and they had to go in the cage in Pittsburgh and settle the thing. And that was, sell out 16,600 people, $165,000 house. It's still the most people that have ever seen a wrestling match in the city of Pittsburgh, indoors at least. I think they ran some outdoor shows in the 60s for Dusty and Bubba, and Dusty won the Bunkhouse Stampede. Well, it was a wild card for the Bunkhouse Finals that were going to be held on pay-per-view. And in the Omni, it was Beautiful Bobby Eaton, Dusty Rhodes, Dick Murdoch, Nikita Koloff, and Black Bart. I love Bart, but one of these things is not like the other in that list. And in the end, Dusty defeated Bobby. You had to throw the guy over the cage or out the door, right? So I'd thrown the racket in to Bobby, and he got some heat on Dusty with the racket, and he got Dusty, and you've never lived until you've seen somebody try to get Dusty Rhodes up on not only the top rope, but to throw him over the top of the cage. But Bobby was trying, and he couldn't do it. So I threw the racket up again, but Dusty got it instead and grabbed the racket and hammered Bobby with it several times and knocked him off the top of the cage to the floor. So he won. Dusty Rhodes going to the Bunkhouse Finals.
in front of a $78,000 house, and that was down. That was probably only about 8,000 people. Whereas traditionally New Year's did better in Atlanta. The following day was Asheville, North Carolina, at the Asheville Civic Center. And once again, it was, I don't want to say Dusty had just kind of lost grip on the booking, but he was doing some different things and some stranger things. And in this case, Bobby was against Nikita Koloff for the World TV title, and Stan was just on a single match on the card against Todd Champion, who he defeated. But then Bobby put Nikita over for the, with the TV title on the line. But splitting the Midnight Express up, we did a lot of singles that month, and it was just odd. And the house was only $10,200. Then January 3rd, we went to Baltimore for a TV taping. It was the A&B syndicated shows, Worldwide and NWA Pro. And that was the famous night. It was $72,000 in Baltimore, which wasn't even in those prices. Those days wasn't even 7,000 people. It was a horrible, horrible house. But they had advertised TV taping with a couple of dark matches. So, but that was the night that on the A show, Worldwide Wrestling, Dick Murdoch challenged Nikita Koloff for the World TV title, and they went 20 minutes Broadway. Do you remember me telling you a story?
Yeah, I think so.
we were sitting in the back, and it's like, and bless Nikita, but we got the finish, and we're like, what the fuck? Because Nikita was not at that time an accomplished wrestler. It's going to go, a 20-minute draw and a cold match, and I was like, Christ, and Murdoch's like, there's going to be shit. So I said, you know something, Dick? I said, every single person in that locker room, every single one of the boys thinks there's no way you can have a good fucking match with Nikita Koloff going 20-minute Broadway. They do? I said, yeah. I heard a couple of them talking about it. There's no way this match is going to stink, is what it's... Oh, they think that, huh? That was the best Nikita Koloff match that he ever wrestled. If you go back and look at it, I think this aired on January 16th, 1988 by my notes on Worldwide Wrestling, but Murdoch versus Nikita 20-minute Broadway. Now, I'm not saying it was Flair and Steamboat, but it was the best Nikita Koloff single match probably that was ever held. And because I challenged Dickie, because he was going to sit down. I could see, because he was just like, and so I challenged him a little bit to step up, and he did it by a cracky. But that was, once again, $72,000 house, TV taping, we made $200, right? Because we weren't advertising the dark matches. And then I believe, because January 4th is off, I can't remember, but we got snowed in one time in Baltimore. That may have been it. Then January 5th, Spartanburg, South Carolina, Midnight Express versus Sting and Ron Simmons, who we defeated because they weren't a full-time tag team. It was just, but once again, the house was $4,200 in Spartanburg. That was not even 500 people. And I don't know why that anybody thought the Midnight Express versus Sting and Ron Simmons was going to draw any money at that point in time. But anyway, that's the match we had, and we beat them with a double team maneuver. And then went on to Atlanta, where we had started doing the Atlanta TBS shows for Saturday and Sunday. We'd started, instead of Saturday mornings, we'd started taping them on some Wednesday nights. So that not only took another night away from a paying gig, but also it took 2 nights away from a paying gig, because used to we'd do Atlanta TV on Saturday morning and then do a house show on Saturday night, and we'd do a house show on Wednesday. This time, so it was odd, and I never really, I think it may have had something to do with TBS not wanting to bring their crew in on Saturday mornings anymore. But on that particular night, January 6th, we accepted the Midnight Express, accepted the Tag Team of the Year award from Bill Apter, and we had a couple of matches, and I was managing Dick at the time also, and he had a couple of matches. We did the Saturday and Sunday show and got paid a whopping $40, which is what you got paid for Atlanta TV in those days. Then we were off on the 7th. Then we were also off on the 8th because we were supposed to be in Newton, North Carolina, but we got snowed out. This is going to be a recurring theme here. Saturday, January 9th, we were in Huntington, West Virginia at the beautiful Huntington Civic Center. The main event, Midnight Express versus Dusty Rhodes and Nikita Koloff in a cage match. $20,000 house.
Oh.
Yes, barely 2,000. I'm telling you, business was January and February. We made $7,000 on each of those months, and that's why in March we went in and talked to Crockett about our new contracts, which we ended up signing, which made us the most unpopular people on the roster when TBS bought the company, because our new contracts were for $225,000 a year apiece. And because he thought all that pay-per-view revenue was going to be coming in and all the syndicated TV revenue was going to be coming in, and it didn't come in. But anyway, so we got $445, which I guess would be almost $1,000 in today's money, but on the $20,000 house because we were in the main event, but still. Of course, we put them over. And then the following day, Sunday, January 10th, Greenville, South Carolina, Memorial Auditorium, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Listen to this. We were booked against Ronnie Garvin and the Mighty Wilbur. But thank God something happened, and Sting replaced the Mighty Wilbur. So Sting and Garvin, we got disqualified. Greenville, South Carolina, Brian, the house, $2,800.
How?
300 people. Part of it was weather, because as you recall, we were just snowed out 100 miles down the road the day before. It was a horrible weather month that month, but part of it, 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday when there was a Monday night town, half a card because it was just the B team on the lineup, and Greenville had been damaged, and so yeah, I think that's the all-time low in the history of Greenville, South Carolina. But we went that night back to Charlotte at the Coliseum, where we had another TV taping. See, that's the thing. Here's another thing that affected the houses and the gates in a lot of these major markets, because Crockett had for years been doing TV tapings in little high school and college gyms within 100, 125 miles of Charlotte. Gaffney, South Carolina. Spartanburg was a big TV location. Meisenheimer, North Carolina, where we helped Tully and Arn beat the Rock and Roll for the tag team titles the previous September. We would do 1,500, 2,000 people in those little gyms. They'd be sold out, sometimes sold out in advance, because the people never got to see live action. But then putting all of their biscuits in the same basket, they were trying to do TV tapings in major arenas because they had been told and led to believe, and Crockett had been led to believe, that TV tapings and the syndicated revenue and like Vince, let's do what Vince is doing. So they started doing TV tapings in major arenas, and they'd advertise 1 or 2 dark matches, and the rest of it is see the stars of TV taping. So you wouldn't have a full card. People didn't know what they were going to fucking see. And they're used to these cards that were 4 and 5 and 6 matches deep in big cities like Charlotte and Greensboro and Baltimore and Atlanta, with grudge matches and title matches. And now even if they got main event matches on TV, the people who had seen TV tapings knew that they would be shorter matches, and you would have to sit through a lot of squashes with the Italian Stallion, so they weren't coming. I don't even have the house for Charlotte down. We got paid $280. So it wasn't very good, and we had a 6-man tag with Dickie in the Midnight against Brad Armstrong, Tim Horner, and the Italian Stallion. And then we were in the cage against Dusty and Nikita on the B show, which was a short cage match with no finish, where Murdoch had run got the key from the referee, run into the cage, and they had to run us off with the troops. So it was TV matches, non-finishes in major arenas, was not helping at all. Monday, January 11th, we were supposed to be in Fayetteville. We could not be there. We were stuck in the fucking snow. As a matter of fact, I think that is the day that I actually pulled out of my driveway on a street that I lived on, turned left, slid sideways into a ditch, and stayed there. So I got like literally 65 feet from my house. And in North Carolina, it's snow of 6 and 8 and 9 and 10 inches. It closes the whole fucking city down, right? So I don't know if they ran the show, but I couldn't make it. January 12th, North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Nice little spot show against Ronnie Garvin and Sting. Of course, they beat us because it was a spot show. Why not? $10,200 house. Well, not bad for a Tuesday night spot show, but that's where we should have been doing the television taping. It's where we in towns like we used to. Then Wednesday, January 13th, we go back to Atlanta for another TV taping on a Wednesday night. And once again, we've got to fly down to Atlanta, take the fucking taxi to not Center Stage time, but to TBS. And then, you know, at least we had Crockett's plane where we could get back that night, but blah. Thursday, January 14th, we were going to be against the Garvins in Fisherville, Virginia. But that, I believe, I've got it scratched out, so either the show was canceled for snow or whatever, rerouted, but we were off that night. Friday night, January 15th, we go to Richmond, Virginia, one of the biggest cities and most the biggest box office cities in the Crockett territory. And guess what we did? An Atlanta TV taping for January 23rd. $55,000 house, about 5,500 people, let's say. And that's Bobby had tweaked his knee, so he had to take several days off, which is one of the only times I remember Bobby taking time off. So it was Stan Lane and Dick Murdoch against Dusty and Nikita in the cage. And then we did a tag match with Dickie and Stan on TV. And, you know, we were in a dark match. We got $475 payoff, but, you know, blah. Then the next day we go to Philadelphia, where it was supposed to be Dusty and Bobby. But since Bobby was hurt, it became Dusty and Stan, who Dusty beat Stan with a crossbody. And that was a pretty goddamn decent house. I don't have it recorded, but we made $825. Then, listen to this one. We've been in Richmond, Virginia on Friday night for a glorified TV taping, right? We go to Philadelphia on Saturday, January 16th for a pretty good house. Sunday afternoon, we're in Charleston, West Virginia for another TV taping, where we basically did a match and an interview and an interview on the B show, and got paid $75 because Charleston sucked because we weren't in a dark match and it was a TV taping. And then we took Crockett's plane, jumped in a fucking car, or jumped in a cab, went to the airport, took the Crockett's plane to St. Louis that night. So we went from Richmond to Philadelphia to Charleston on Sunday afternoon, St. Louis Sunday night. And I managed Dick Murdoch against Dusty in the main event, which was kind of a fucking thrill to manage Dick Murdoch against Dusty Rhodes. And basically disqualification finish, and it was a $400 payoff. I do not have the house recorded, but that wasn't anything special. And from being in St. Louis on Sunday night, Monday, we're back in Columbia, South Carolina, where I managed Murdoch against Sting. And we got disqualified, and a $150 payoff, because Columbia was, and plus, once again, the weather outside was frightful. Then this was an interesting, originally we were scheduled on Tuesday, January 19th to be off because it was supposed to be a travel day, because that's when they had set up a 2-day tour of the West Coast. And originally we were booked on it, but thank God they took us off. Honolulu, Hawaii, on Wednesday, January 20th at the Blaisdell Arena. Now, I don't know if they ran that show or not. I think they did. I think they did, but we were taken off and put back on the Carolina team because they had so much talent they'd run 2 towns a night. But think about this. If we'd have had to, we would have flown all day on Tuesday, January 19th to get to Hawaii in time to get up the next day and basically eat lunch and go to the building and work. And then the following day, they came back to Los Angeles and ran the Forum. And then we're back the following day and then came back to the Carolinas. So we got taken off. And that is also, by the way, when Bubba left. Because you'll recall that Bubba got his payoff about this time for the Starrcade 87.
My restore what has been broken. Unite, my daughter. A new threat comes to our shores, and I must call you home. Restore what has been broken. Unite old enemies. Forge
Oh. Mm. Them overflow ones. Going back to the bathroom?
Yeah. You need drinks or something?
No. Okay. Mm-hmm. Power's off the GameStop. Yeah. I don't know. I'll ask. There's a lot of damage is on the roads, you know. A lot of debris.
stay off at the one next to Adam's on.
I don't know. I don't know. But GameStop got struck. A lightning or something? Something got damaged.
It looks like that whole store complex will be out.
Yeah. I didn't know it was this bad. Oh my God, this is bad. Where was it? Where was the most damage at Maysville?
Mayfield.
Maysville?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's where the mom graduated at.
Okay. the bathroom again?
No, I'm going to get
Oh. Will you put the steak in there for me? Another one? It got warm on me before I ate it, so I could get another one out. Still cold. What do you think?
Yeah. I don't want it.
Thanks.
You're right.
Oh.